Hi everybody, I'm Maggie Shane and this is Eat Like You Give a Shit. Today's post is the video introduction of the beginning of my journey, how I got here and how it's going. I am Maggie Shane. I'm a romance and thriller novelist. 115 titles so far with 116th coming out in June. I have worked with most of the major houses in New York. I've hit the New York Times list a couple of times, the USA Today bestseller list as well. I've won 21 industry awards, yada yada. I'm working now with a remarkable house, Oliver Hebert Books. I'm married to a younger man, madly in love. And since he's pretty nuts about me too, I've decided to live as long and as healthily as I possibly can. I used to expect I'd be gone by 60. For the illogical reason that my mother only made it to 60, plus 2 weeks. She'd had pancreatic cancer for 14 months by then. Same disease also got her sister. So I kind of felt doomed. My health then, at that time, and this was in 2020, I had SVT, primary supraventricular tachycardia, a condition where the heart rate will suddenly spike for no reason. 5 times I had been to the ER, 5 times to be flatlined and restarted like a computer reboot to get my heart back into rhythm. The medications didn't work, so they had to go to that extreme, and that hurts. I had a prescription for metoprolol, a beta blocker, and a heart rate stabilizer to take as needed should an SVT episode occur. In 2020, they were occurring every week. I was pre-diabetic with an A1C of 5.7. I had chronic acid reflux and I was living on Tums. I lived on Nexium till they banned it, so that probably did me a lot of good. I had terrible issues with scalp itch and flaking. I'd had it forever. I was barely sleeping. I had zero energy. I had high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol. I had near daily headaches and frequent muscle, joint, and body aches that I thought were just aging. And then one day I stumbled upon Forks Over Knives. I was skimming for something to watch, and there's a little magic in here. I was skimming for something to watch, and I stumbled upon the documentary Forks Over Knives on Amazon Prime. It was about Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn's and nutritionist T. Colin Campbell's groundbreaking work in treating disease with a whole foods, plant-based diet. Now, I didn't just stumble upon this as I was skimming. No, what I stumbled upon was an old episode of Oprah's Super Soul Sunday in which she was interviewing Mrs. James Cameron, Susie Cameron. Took me a minute to remember her first name, Susie Cameron. And Susie was talking about changing her diet in a way that changed their entire lives, and just it sounded so amazing and so miraculous and so life-changing, the things she was saying. And I didn't know what kind of diet she was talking about, but then she mentioned Forks Over Knives, and so then I went searching for the Forks Over Knives documentary. So that's how I came upon it. So they were here are these 2 PhDs. One was the head of cardiology at the Cleveland Clinic for most of his career, Esselstyn, cardiologist, surgeon. Colin Campbell, PhD researcher, famous around the world. So they started working on this, and they were saying a whole food plant-based diet, and I was saying, well, I'm never going to do that. Although I had been feeling more and more uncomfortable about eating animals, and I had started to think that maybe I might stop eating at least mammals, I was curious enough to keep watching. I made it as far, and this is like 10 minutes in, as the study where the researchers were turning the BRCA, the BRCA gene mutations, that's the breast cancer gene mutation, on and off like a light switch by switching the diets of mice from 20% casein on to 5% casein off. Casein is the ingredient, the protein in dairy products. Casein is really bad for you. Okay, so casein comes from dairy and it is an animal protein. Now, most of us are eating way more than 20% of our calories from animal proteins. Way more. I'd say 50. I mean, we go in a restaurant and watch people ordering, and they're basically ordering meat and cheese. There's hardly any vegetables or grains. We're getting way too much of this. So they fed the mice who already had the mutation, but it was dormant in their bodies. They fed them the 20% of their calories from casein, and everyone, 100% started producing cancer cells. The mice that they kept on 5% didn't ever start. The BRCA gene stayed dormant. The next round of experiments they tried, they took the same batch of mice, put them on the 20%. The genes started producing cancer cells. Then they cut the animal protein down to 5% of the calories in the daily diet of the mice. And those mutated genes that had already started producing cancer cells stopped. They stopped. That's remission. Women who find out they have the BRCA gene mutation frequently undergo double mastectomies just to prevent the breast cancer from occurring. Why didn't anyone tell them the same mutation causes other cancers too? Seems like a lawsuit to me. I mean, you can't cut everything off. Just don't feed them. They eat animals. I stopped the film right there, and I said a single word aloud, and that word was shit. Because in my heart, I knew I was going to make this change immediately. Because one of those other cancers was pancreatic, the one I most feared. And here I was, handed a light switch to turn it off and keep it off. I also knew it was going to be hard as hell. Only it wasn't. It wasn't hard at all. I called my husband inside and hit start over on the video, and we watched the video together from the beginning. The next day, we cleared out our fridge, our freezer, and our cupboards. Now, at first, we had no idea what to eat. We just ate like bowls of fruit and bowls of vegetables, and we just cooked vegetables and ate them. And we didn't really make any things. We didn't have any recipes yet, and we didn't know what we were doing, so we just ate vegetables and whole grains. We looked for whole grains, and we ate those. We didn't know what to eat. This was the best part of our transition. We dropped like 25 pounds in a couple of weeks, both of us, without exercising at all. We were just stuffing our faces all the time. You have to eat a lot more on a vegan diet, and the weight was just falling off. But then, all of a sudden, this amazing thing happened. The grocery stores started carrying this wide array of amazing vegan food products. Beyond Sausage, Impossible Burgers, chicken nuggets, fish fillets. See, plant-based foods don't use meat, dairy, or vowels. Chicken. And wow, our favorite frozen curly fries and tater tots were also plant-based. And Lay's potato chips turned out to be plant-based, and Ritz crackers. And oh my God, even Oreos. We slid into the worst version of a plant-based diet. It was expensive as hell and not healthy at all. But even then, I had not a single episode of the SVT since we started, even when I started doing the bad stuff. Now, in December 2022, just shy of 2 years eating plant-based, we were really eating oil-based. We just didn't know it. I was shopping when I felt an odd sensation in my chest, and I thought the PSVT had returned. I happened to be in the pharmacy, and it felt so weird and different that I sat in the booth to take my BP, and it was through the roof. I can't find where I wrote the numbers down, but it was scary, scary high. It's high enough that I called one of my RN daughters, who told me to find my old metoprolol and take it immediately and get to the ER if it didn't stop it. So I did that. Subsequently, I saw my cardiologist, wore a monitor, had tests. It wasn't the SVT. It was not arrhythmia at all. It was blood pressure, out of control blood pressure. Unlike most patients, I can feel mine. That's all. I was told to take my metoprolol daily from now on. End of discussion. Well, I tried them, and sometimes they were not enough and my BP stayed high, and sometimes it was too much and it went down too low, and I kept getting different prescriptions. I had 25 milligram metoprolol, I had 50 milligram metoprolol. I had each of those doses in both an extended release and a immediate release formula. All these meds, and I'm like, this isn't what I signed up for. You know, this whole lifestyle was supposed to avoid this. I was furious with myself and the world. I had been promised great health and thriving health based on that plant-based diet, and I was pissed. So I decided to watch Forks Over Knives over again so that I could yell at the TV. I think I missed some key words. In our excitement over discovering the miracle, not of fake meat, we'd forgotten the whole foods part of plant-based. Plant-based garbage is still garbage. We started over from square one. For Christmas, my 5 girls bought us the ultimate cooking course from Forks Over Knives website. Most of what's there is free. Hundreds of recipes, articles, videos. They even have a free recipe app by the same name that I use every single day. Now, we didn't get around to starting the course until March. And that's when we made the switch to actually eating a fully whole food plant-based diet. We tried taking weekends off at first, but we felt so crappy when we did compared to how we'd felt all week that we quickly undid that. I tell you how to do that, and I share the science behind it in other articles here on this site. I immediately stopped taking the metoprolol daily and instead checked my blood pressure 3 times a day. Now, this was years ago when I wrote this piece that I'm recording for you now, but I can tell you today, when I take my BP every morning, it averages about 114/70. I rarely ever have to take a metoprolol, although there are times when the stress levels of living in the United States in 2026 does send my blood pressure through the roof, and I do have to get one. But it's definitely not a daily thing. I keep them on hand just in case. My cholesterol has dropped 45 points. My A1C dropped down into normal range. My chronic acid reflux vanished. No more Tums. Not a Tums. And that started on day 1. The scalp issues vanished. I have no flakes. There's no flakes. There's no dandruff. So I've kept the weight off. I'm down 40 pounds. I haven't had a headache in ever. I just stopped getting them. Hubby asked just the other day if I could remember my last headache because he couldn't remember his last headache, and neither one of us could. I feel like a kid again. My energy is so high. I am 64, and I feel better than I ever have. You see, meat and dairy cause inflammation, and inflammation causes just about everything else, including cancer. Other changes I've made have been more spiritual in nature. Ever since the beginning, I've experienced this sensation of lightness. The food I eat feels light in my body. There's none of that post-meal heaviness, My meals energize me. They don't make me want to take a nap. I feel that layers have been peeled away from my emotions. It's as if they were somehow insulated before. My sense of empathy has expanded many times over. I've lived in this area since I was 14, but it's only now, decades later, that I really see the baby calves chained to their plastic igloos, destined to become veal. I recognize only now that they're bawling for their mamas, who are close enough to hear them and smell them and bellow back at them, but will never again be allowed near enough to touch. I tear up now, and I think, who the fuck are we? What kind of person eats babies? Lamb? Baby calves? Boiling lobsters alive? What the fuck is wrong with us? If our entire society approves of a thing, we're conditioned to believe it has to be okay. We find dozens of justifications for our abhorrent treatment of animals. From "we needed it to evolve" to "some primitive peoples have no choice" to "but where do you get your protein?" That's the number one. One acquaintance actually told me that her physiology was so different from mine that she required meat to survive. Bullshit. The animals we eat get 100% of their protein from plants. So yes, there are emotional changes too. I'm more sensitive. I get my feelings hurt a little more easily, but I'm also feeling my happiness more. My joy is more joyful than ever. I've been an extremely happy little shit for most of my life, but this is next level. I seem to have lost my filters. That might be due to age rather than diet. Either way, I speak my thoughts freely and often regret it. Hence this blog. I need an audience to whom I'm not related, because this is a hard topic. There's no argument against whole food, plant-based being the healthiest way to eat that can't be disproven by peer-reviewed science. And when we humans know better, we feel compelled to do better. And doing this just feels better. But it also feels impossible to most people, and that makes them feel angry and defensive, especially if you're a working parent, because to do this does require more time spent cooking. And I know that's time a lot of us just don't have today. But I'm here to tell you it can be done. It's not nearly as hard as it seems from the outside. There are shortcuts: pre-chopped fresh or frozen fruits and veggies, canned beans and tomatoes, batch cooking, among others. I'm doing this, and I'm lazy by nature. Running a couple of businesses, writing novels, but I'm having fun cooking. I'm creative with it, building my own recipes and tweaking some old favorites to get rid of all the bad stuff, like oil. Sidebar: oil. Even olive oil, despite its superior marketing campaign, constricts your blood vessels 22% on average within minutes of swallowing it, slowing the blood flow, allowing the plaque to form in our arteries, and damaging the critical endothelial cells that produce the nitric oxide that keeps our blood flowing freely. That is from Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. The source is in the show notes. If you are over 17 years old in this country and eating the standard American diet for that entire 17 years, then you already have coronary artery disease. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn said that as well. The good news is you don't have to do this all at once. I didn't, even though I thought I did. It took me 2 years to get to the full-on healthiest part, and I still have periods where I backslide and have to rein myself back in again. The health benefits, though, they begin immediately. And every bit of improvement will help. You'll live longer. Every little bit of this that you do will add time to your life, healthy time to your life. So here we'll produce pieces about batch cooking and shortcuts that'll be helpful for the busiest among us. But really, our planet needs us to make this change. In all of this, I haven't even touched on the environmental issues. So here you go. If you stop eating beef, you keep 1.4 tons of CO2 from entering Earth's atmosphere. That's the same amount saved by converting to 100% solar energy. If you stop eating all meat, including fish and poultry, you keep 1.6 tons of CO2 from entering our atmosphere. The land used to feed meat eaters is 3 acres per person per year. To feed vegetarians, 1/2 acre per person per year. Vegans, 1/6 acre per person per year. A vegan produces 1/2 as much CO2. A vegan uses 1/11 as much fossil fuel, 1/13 as much water, and 1/18 as much land as someone who's eating animals. Now, if you stop eating meat and eggs and dairy, you save 1.8 tons of CO2 from our atmosphere. That's more than if you switch to a hybrid car. One person going vegan saves 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet of forest, 10 pounds of CO2, and 1 animal's life every single day. So that's a little bit more about my journey and my reasons for taking it. I no longer have any fear of pancreatic cancer. I don't know what's going to get me, but it's not going to be that. I hope I can help others on the path for the best health of their entire lives and way more years of them. So check back often, look in the recipes files, and enjoy. See you next time.